In case you haven't heard, during a recent investors meeting, EA CEO Andrew Wilson announced that Bioware's upcoming new IP would be delayed from EA's 2018 fiscal year to their 2019 fiscal year. What this means is that the new IP will now launch sometime between April 2018 and March 2019, whereas originally it was supposed to launch between April 2017 and March 2018. So basically, the game's release window has been pushed back by an entire year. Here's Andrew Wilson's exact statement on the matter. "We are very pleased with the progress of our new action IP from Bioware. The design is stunning, gameplay mechanics are excellent, and the action will be exhilarating. The game is built around a live service, and through our creative process, we decided to add more to the disruptive new social design for our players. To accommodate for that, we are moving the launch date for this project into fiscal year 2019. This announcement comes in 2 months after Mass Effect Andromeda's disastrous launch, which seems to have jolted EA and Bioware wide awake. Hopefully, this delay means that they learned the hard way that rushing out an unpolished, half-assed product does more harm than good in the long run, and that us gamers aren't having any of that shit. After Andromeda, they can bet their ass that we'll be keeping a close eye on their new IP to ensure that there isn't any foul play involved. So they better take all the time they need to make this game as good and as polished as possible before they decide to sell it to us." Now, for those who haven't been keeping up with Bioware's new IP but are curious about it, I've decided to compile all the information we know so far about the title in this video. If you're intent on keeping a close eye on Bioware's new IP or are genuinely interested in this project, this video is a good starting point. So let's begin. Bioware's new IP was first announced back in March 2013 during PAX East. During Bioware's panel, Casey Hudson revealed that Bioware Montreal was helming a new Mass Effect game, while the Edmonton team, the ones responsible for the original Mass Effect trilogy, was building something brand new akin to what the first Mass Effect game was all those years ago. 4 months later, on July 2013, Casey Hudson confirmed that the new IP was being developed by the core Edmonton team responsible for games like Knights of the Old Republic and the original Mass Effect trilogy, which is great news. Then, towards the end of the year, on December 2013, Casey Hudson confirmed that the new IP was already in playable form as an internal build. The next time we heard of the new IP was E3 2014, when Bioware released a video to update us on both Montreal's Mass Effect game and Edmonton's new IP.
While the Montreal studio is working on the next Mass Effect game, our team here in Edmonton is developing a completely new IP.
It's a chance to have a clean sheet design and start from the most fundamental principles you can have.
We want to take on very contemporary stories, and yet we want to build a world that is as big and as imaginative as everything we've done before.
It starts off with baby steps. What are the environments? What are cities like? What are characters like?
So we're trying to build a fictional world that feels real and is alive and is constantly changing.
This is what the world is doing right now. Come and play.
At Bioware, we're building worlds and journeys for the next generation.
How far can we go with these new games? Wait and see.
As you saw in the brief glimpses of development footage, the new IP seems to take place somewhere on Earth, or at least a setting very similar to it. From there, 2 months later, on August 2014, Bioware announced that Casey Hudson, project director of the Mass Effect trilogy and the new IP, would be leaving the company. This right here gives me really bad vibes about the upcoming new title. Following this news, the rest of 2014 and all of 2015 were relatively quiet years for the new IP, but we would hear more about it throughout 2016. On February 2016, Bioware Austin, the studio behind the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic, posted a job listing for a new unannounced Bioware IP. The job involved directing a team of software engineers to create the back-end systems that will drive online play for this exciting new game. The possible implication here is that Bioware Austin might be helping out Bioware Edmonton with the new IP to implement some kind of MMO system. 8 months later, on October 2016, another key member of BioWare Edmonton, lead producer Cameron Lee, left the company. So more bad news for the studio. Once again, I'm getting really bad vibes from seeing all of these key BioWare members just leaving the company. Something must be off behind the scenes. In the next month, on November 2016, website Game Informer interviewed BioWare General Manager Erin Flynn, who shared some new insight on BioWare's new IP with the following statement. What we said was, we are BioWare, so we have a certain kind of game that we love making, and we know our fans would love. So we started with that, and that's a game that has, at its heart, stories and storytelling. So we decided we're going to stick with that. We're not just going to walk away from that. Once we agreed on that, everything started to fall into place. Flynn also added that he wants the game to have believable, relatable characters, those that you would want to know in real life. This interview basically confirmed that BioWare's new IP would be story-driven and character-driven, which is not a surprise considering it's a BioWare game, but it's still good to get confirmation. This brings us to our current year, 2017. During an investors meeting towards the end of January 2017, EA CEO Andrew Wilson shared some details about BioWare's upcoming new IP, stating the following. At the end of the fiscal year, our BioWare studio will be delivering an all-new IP, a clean sheet design with new concepts, new gameplay mechanics, and new stories set in a unique new universe. This game has the potential to fundamentally disrupt the way people think about an action title, bringing friends together to play in exhilarating new ways. We are very excited about the future of this new franchise and its ability to attract a large global audience. Notice how this happened just a little over a month before Mass Effect Andromeda launched. At this point, these guys were pretty ecstatic about bringing out the new IP towards the end of the 2018 fiscal year. Plans that would change shortly after Mass Effect Andromeda's disastrous launch. During the investors meeting, Andrew also used the term genre melding to describe the game, but also emphasized that the new IP would not be an RPG. Shortly following the investors meeting on the same day, BioWare General Manager Erin Flynn released the following statement about the new IP through BioWare's official blog. As we're working hard to finish Mass Effect Andromeda, I wanted to take a minute to talk about our new IP. As our CEO Andrew Wilson mentioned, we are creating a unique IP that will bring players together in exciting new ways. There is much more to say in the coming months, but for now, I wanted to offer this additional background. In 2012, we began crafting a new universe full of new characters, stories, and gameplay. Our ambition is simple: draw upon 20 years of development knowledge and lessons to create something fun and new for you to enjoy with your friends. There's nothing quite as exciting as building a new IP from scratch, and it will be even more thrilling for us to share more with you in the future. From there, 3.5 months later, on April 2017, video game journalist Liam Robertson revealed new information about BioWare's new IP, which he said he's 100% sure about in one of his Patreon podcasts. Liam said they've been quiet about what their new IP is for a good while. This is a project that's been in development for around 4 years. It's currently set to be revealed at E3 2017. I don't know if they've said this publicly. It's set to come out next year. Its name right now is Dylan. There is no other way to say it right now. It's Dylan, as in Bob Dylan. I believe that relates to the main character. Liam also mentioned in the podcast that while he's not 100% sure if Dylan is a codename or not, he knows that's what the game has been called for 4 years now. Liam then further elaborated with, Dylan is, from what I understand, a sci-fi themed game. It is sort of Destiny style. Take some elements from The Division. It has like MMO elements. Someone described it as a semi-MMO. I don't know much more than that. It is a huge scale project, perhaps the biggest BioWare has ever done. It's bigger than Mass Effect Andromeda, considerably so. It will have co-op. From what I understand, I'm not 100% sure on this part, all the rest I'm 100% sure on. It's like triple-sourced, rock-solid information. This is the part where it gets a little sketchy, as I've only heard this from one artist who's working on it. They say that the main character is this sort of like gorgeous Adonis, and there is a female character as well. I'm not sure if you can play as her, but she's more schlubby looking, and those are the two main characters. This finally brings us to our current month, May 2017. During their last investors meeting, EA announced that the new IP would be pushed back from fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2019, and EA CEO Andrew Wilson shared that the new IP is progressing nicely, that it's an action game, and that the game is built around a live service, stating that they delay the game to add more to the game's disruptive social design. This is of course the same news that I covered towards the beginning of this video. And last but not least, a few days later on May 10th, 2017, website Kotaku released an article reporting that according to their sources, the Mass Effect series has gone into hiatus following Andromeda's disappointing launch, and that Bioware Montreal has been scaled down to a support studio, with staff scattered to other EA projects such as Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the new Bioware IP. Most compelling about this report, however, is the fact that Kotaku sources have corroborated that the new IP's codename is in fact Dylan, which was first reported by Liam Robertson back in April 2017. In other words, Liam Robertson's information is most likely pretty accurate. Dylan will probably be sci-fi themed. It will probably draw inspiration from games like Destiny and The Division. It will probably feature MMO elements. It will probably have co-op, and it will probably be the biggest game that Bioware has ever worked on. Kotaku's article also reported that Bioware Austin, the studio behind Bioware's MMO Star Wars The Old Republic, is in fact helping out Bioware Edmonton with their new game. This matches up perfectly with Bioware Austin's job listing from February 2016, which described a role involving directing a team of software engineers to create the back-end systems that will drive online play for a new Bioware IP. So at this point, I think it's pretty safe to assume that Bioware Austin is helping Edmonton implement some kind of MMO system into Dylan. I should also mention that based on how both EA and Bioware have described this new IP with quotes like these, it seems clear that Dylan is some kind of story-driven MMO action game. I'll be honest with you, based on what little information we have right now, the game just kind of sounds like Destiny, but with a different coat of paint. I hope I'm wrong, I hope there's more to it than that, and Bioware is saying that their game will be disruptive to the action genre and that it will feature new ways to play with friends. But how much different can a game like this truly be from something like Destiny, which pretty much is this action MMO genre that Bioware is describing? I think how successful Dylan will ride on Bioware's ability to deliver on their promise that Dylan will be disruptive and something different and unlike anything we've seen before in an action MMO genre. We'll see what happens. I shouldn't be making judgments on this game so early. After all, it hasn't even been announced yet, and it hasn't been shown off in any way, shape, or form. But I guess part of me is just a little disappointed that Edmonton didn't focus on what they do best, which is expansive, immersive, story-driven, single-player experiences. I personally don't want another Destiny-esque game. I want them to go back to their former glory days and create games that are as good as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and the original Mass Effect trilogy and Jade Empire, among others. It could just be a personal thing, but I feel like every time a developer tries to mix deep storytelling with MMO, aspects of narrative presentation and player immersion are always sacrificed for the sake of a multiplayer environment. There's just a lot less narrative flexibility in an MMO-style game due to the nature of MMOs. And I personally find that the presence of real-world people in a game disrupts my immersion in a game's story and in this feeling of me being the chosen one to undertake this incredible task. There's just something very zen about just you by yourself being lost in this world with no one else to distract you or disrupt your quest. And again, this could just be a personal thing, but this is why I found that I can never really get into an MMO or an MMO style game, at least if I'm in it for the story. What can I say? I love me the single player, expansive, immersive, story-driven experiences, and that's what I was hoping Edmonton would tackle next. So, I don't know. But I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. I'm gonna wait until BioWare shows off the game before I make any more judgments. Who knows, maybe BioWare will find some kind of formula to mix story-driven single-player elements with MMO and find this perfect balance where even gamers like myself who can't really get into MMOs but absolutely love immersive, expansive, story-driven single-player experiences can get into. We'll probably find out more about Dylan at E3 2017, most likely during EA's press conference, so stay tuned for that. Until then, this is pretty much everything we know so far about BioWare's upcoming new IP, codenamed Dylan, and I hope you found this information useful. If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting me on Patreon so that we can keep this channel alive without third-party sponsorships or corporate interference. And to be further updated on all things BioWare, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.